Good evening, and welcome to Happiness at Work with Denmark's Chief Happiness Officer, Alexander Kjerulf, who is going to reveal to us the secrets of, oh no, I forgot to ask someone how to pronounce this, Arbeidsglæde?
Very good.
Yeah? Okay. So I'm delighted to see so many people here. Perhaps I should say it is with great happiness that I see so many people here. So my name is Vivian Schmidt. I'm the Jean Monnet Professor of European Integration here at Boston University, and I'm the founding director of the Center for the Study of Europe. Tonight's event is the second in a series of conversations with European thinkers, which we've titled European Voices. It's organized by the Center for the Study of Europe and funded by the European Commission delegation in Washington, D.C. We're very grateful, needless to say, to the Commission for their support for our initiative. I would also like to acknowledge the program on leadership and organizational transformation here in the Graduate School of Management, and the Europeans in Boston team, especially Natasha Babushkina, okay, and John Silva for their help in promoting the event. Before we introduce our moderator for the evening, I want to alert you to a few upcoming events. On Monday, April 1st, we're screening the short film Snovi, the 15-minute fictional account of a Bosnian composer struggling to cope with the aftermath of the Serbian aggression in the 1990s, filmed entirely in Sarajevo. This was filmed entirely in Sarajevo. The screening will be followed by a conversation with director Reshad Kulenovic about the tensions and circumstances in the Balkans. So this is really a must-see event. On April 8th, another must-see event, our European Voices series continues with a reading and conversation with Kieran Carson. Following the reading, Kieran, who plays flute and whistle, and his wife Deirdre, an accomplished fiddler, will perform a selection of traditional Irish music. On April 18th, then, we'll be hosting another Irish poet, Paul Muldoon, in a conversation with the American poet Don Chasen. Do look at our website for further information, www.bu.edu/European, for a full list of events, and be sure to sign up for our mailing list if you want to receive weekly event announcements. Finally, I'd like to remind you all that the event is being recorded. Please take a moment now to turn off your mobile devices, your cell phones. And when the time comes for questions and answers, please wait for the microphone before you begin speaking. And please introduce yourselves. And now I'm going to hand the mic over to our administrator of the Center for the Study of Europe, Elizabeth Amrian, who's going to introduce Tim Sullivan. Thanks.
I prefer to be off stage than on stage, but I did have a conversation this summer with Alex, so I thought I would share a little bit by way of background of how this event came to be. So as Vivian mentioned, the presentation takes place as part of a larger project sponsored by a European Commission grant, which explores the prospects of democratic politics under conditions of globalization. And before we started to write the grant, we surveyed a number of people involved in our previous projects, but also people such as Alex Kjerulf, whose blogs I'm reading daily. There are actually two Danish blogs in my newsfeed. The other one is the Copenhagen Cycle Chic blog, which I'm a big fan of. So I was interested in knowing people's answers to this question: what is the most important conversation you're involved in right now? And interestingly enough, the answers themselves took the form of questions. So people wanted to know, how can the U.S. use its power to advance both its own security and prosperity, but also benefit others? What will happen if Greece leaves the Eurozone, and what will it mean for Greek citizens? What is the evolving role of the citizen in the construction of their own city? The responses, which were surprisingly diverse, I thought everyone was going to be asking about the presidential elections, conveyed individuals' concern not only for their cities and countries, but for what is happening to other individuals around the globe, demonstrating the interdependence that's the essence of globalization. But they also revealed what we interpreted as a deep desire for democracy, for participation, to have a role, voice, agency, presumably not only in politics, but in other arenas as well. Alex's question was, when do people change? Or more particularly, what ideas, approaches, methods, circumstances, inspirations, or influences help people to change their lives for the better, and what keep them stuck in bad situations. All of which led us ultimately to focus the project around questions pertaining to the prospects of democracy. As the American writer Rebecca Solnit puts it, democracy is a utopian concept. Democracy says that people are adequate in intelligence and values in their capacity for engagement to govern themselves. What a radical idea. The European Voices series is premised on the notion, beautifully articulated by Rebecca Solnit, that ideas originate not in bureaucratic chambers, but in the street, where they're picked up and represented by artists, writers, activists, intellectuals, and sometimes business leaders, in a manner that sparks public discourse and seeds future politics. Over the years, we've hosted here a number of artists and writers in an effort to explore this intersection of politics and culture, beginning with our Poetry and Politics series in 2004. But this is only the second time that we're inviting someone who comes from the world of business. We had George Soros here in 2003, so we're due. An arena that wields considerable, some might argue, disproportionate influence in politics. Now, organizations, for the most part, are not democracies, and so there's this inherent disconnect between the desire for agency or autonomy on the part of the individuals or workers who comprise the organization and the need for order on the part of management in the face of increasing complexity, all of which amounts to a recipe for unhappiness at work. Why such unhappy places exist is the question that our moderator, Tim Sullivan, and his co-author, Ray Fisman, take up in their brand new book. This was just published in January, The Org, The Underlying Logic of the Office. Tim is the editorial director of the Harvard Business Review Press and part of the senior management team at the Harvard Business Review. He's worked as an editor at Princeton University Press, Portfolio Penguin, and Basic Books. His writings have appeared in the Wall Street Journal, Slate, The Atlantic, and Wired. In The Org, Tim and his co-author do a brilliant job of explaining the dysfunction that's inherent to the nature of the organization, the trade-offs that businesses face once they move their startup out of the garage, beginning with the economic logic of why organizations exist in the first place. And I should mention that we have Tim's book for sale, so you can pick up a copy during the reception and maybe even get it signed. And if you've ever seen The Wire, you will appreciate the chapter on the Baltimore Police Department. I loved this chapter. You have people who are incredibly motivated to go out and chase down bad guys, or as Tim puts it, to keep the peace. And they're working inside an organization that, for reasons of its own, needs to maintain some kind of structure. And the organization has to keep track of these guys and what they're doing when they're out on the streets. But of course, the work of keeping the peace happens in ways that can't be measured, or in a lot of ways that can't be measured. And so what happens is that good policing goes unrewarded, and there's frustration all around, which you see in The Wire. So now it is my pleasure to welcome Tim Sullivan, who will introduce Alex Kjerulf for us.
Thanks, Elizabeth, and welcome everybody. I should say that in one of our Amazon reviews for the book, it calls it perhaps the worst business book ever written. And I take that as a great compliment because there are a lot of really bad business books written. So to be the superb among them. So in anticipating introducing Alex, I was trying to list all the things that make me happy. Family, and other people happy. Family, relationships, stuff. I like wine. I like children. I love babies. For other people, it's not children. for many people. But then I thought this is a pretty prosaic list, and I went to one of the masters, to Oscar Hammerstein, and he had a much better list, of course, and you all know it. Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings, and so forth. I won't go through all the lyrics. I know, and you all know, that nowhere in My Favorite Things does it list work or the office. And I think on most people's lists, they would not include work, even if they like some of the consequences of that. Alex, of course, argues that work should appear on that list. And in fact, your workplace should be not just satisfying or make you content or give you a paycheck, it should make you happy. And one of the things I really like about Alex's work is that he doesn't just assert this, he actually talks about why happy workplaces do better than unhappy ones under many circumstances. And then he tells you how to get there. And that's the really hard part, is how do you go from asserting that happy workplaces are a good thing, which is something most of us wouldn't argue with, to actually taking the steps to make your workplace happy, which is quite remarkable if you can accomplish it. So Alex's research draws on numerous real-life examples of companies that have achieved happiness, and he shows how they are successful. He consults with companies like Hilton, Microsoft, Lego, IKEA, Shell, and IBM, and many others, and he travels the world talking about Arbeidsglæde. He's going to correct me, but that's how I pronounce it, which is the Danish word for happiness at work. He has a master's degree in computer science, and he's also the founder of Enterprise Systems, a truly happy IT company. So welcome, Alex.
Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here. I would like to thank the organizer. I am, seriously. I would like to thank the organizers for making this possible. I'd like to thank all of you for coming. I'd like to thank Tim for that fantastic introduction. Thank you so much. Happiness at work. This may seem like a strange topic to a lot of people. That's what we're going to look at today. And since this is part of the European Voices series, we're going to look at it from a European perspective, and specifically from a Scandinavian perspective, because I do believe that Scandinavia has something very interesting to offer the rest of the world in connection with happiness at work. And we're going to look at that, why that is. Now, I'm not claiming that happiness at work is purely a Scandinavian idea. It very clearly is not. You have, let me see, just a second. There we go. You have a guy like Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin, saying this. This is from his autobiography, a fantastic book called Losing My Virginity. Awesome book. And in that he says, more than anything else, fun is the secret behind Virgin's success. You have a guy like Steve Jobs, who said in his graduation speech to the Stanford graduates, he says, the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And that's the field I've been working in for the last 10 years. This is me. And yes, I used to be in computer science, but don't worry, I got over it. I founded my current company in 2003. It's called Woohoo! And I want to make this perfectly clear. The company is not called Woohoo. It is called Woohoo! Picking up the phone is awesome. Woohoo! It's Alex. We consult with a lot of clients these days. Some of them, we've written 3 books. This is the first one, Happy Hours 9 to 5, currently out in 9 languages, including Chinese. It's currently being translated to Hindi, which is awesome. And we do this all over the world. We've been to all of these countries. Yeah, that's from my first trip to India, where I did a series of workshops for some managers at Tata, India's biggest private workplace. Now, that guy was happy before I got there, okay? I'd like to examine this difference between maybe the European approach and the American approach to happiness at work. Before I do that, I'd like to know a little about you guys. So let's see, how many of you are American? Yes, awesome, about half. How many of you are not American? This is a test, yes. Those of you who are not American, how many of you are European? And how many are not European? I'm getting a little exercise into the presentation at this point. This is awesome. Thanks, very good. Now, I'm not claiming that Europeans Scandinavians are naturally happier, but Denmark does tend to come out at the top of the happiness lists. and America does tend to come somewhat further down those lists. And I have a theory as to why. I actually have a theory as to why. This may seem a little weird, but bear with me. I think it's the power plugs. Yeah, because American power plugs look like this. Those guys are clearly scared and very unhappy. Have you ever seen a Danish power outlet? Looks like this. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Or maybe that's not it. Maybe it has something to do with this strange word, arbejdsglæde. You have the pronunciation right there, Tim. Arbejdsglæde. We can practice a little later. You're close, though. Work happiness. Arbejde in Danish means work. Glæde means happiness. So this word literally means work happiness. Now, the interesting thing about this word is that it exists only in the Scandinavian languages. Okay? Danish, Swedish, and Norwegian are very similar. We all have this word. But then, this word exists in no other language on the planet. I've checked. Okay? There's no word for happiness at work in English. That word does not exist in French. Does not exist in Spanish. They don't have it in German. They certainly don't have it in German. Don't get me wrong, I love Germans, but they're very serious people. And I believe that this is not a coincidence, okay? That we have, I don't want to read too much into it, okay? But I don't believe that it's a pure coincidence that we have this word in Scandinavia and that it's missing in the rest of the world. In Scandinavia, for the last 40 or 50 years, we have focused on creating good workplaces where people like to come to work. It's a perfectly accepted part of Scandinavian business culture. In Scandinavia, people fully expect to find a job they can like, something they can be happy about, something that makes them excited, something they can look forward to most mornings. And I find that this attitude is somewhat missing in the rest of the world. When I go to the UK to speak, when I go to France, when I went to India, and I think especially when I come to the US, attitudes are somewhat different. One American guy told me, well, of course I hate my job. That's why I get paid. So people, I was in South Africa 2 weeks ago for the first time to speak. And a lot of people, they looked at me and they said, wait a minute, is it even possible to have a job you like? Is that even possible? Is it normal to hate your job? A lot of people say, well, that's just normal to hate your job. That's the way it is. That's the way it always has been. That's the way it always will be. But I think we need to change that. And I think we need to take this concept of arbejdsglæde into the world. And that's what I do. That's my work and has been for the last 10 years. Just to show you that this is not just me making cultural differences up. If any of you are familiar with the work of the Dutch sociologist Geert Hofstede, he's actually looked at business cultures oh yeah, by the way, this is in Japan. The culture is very different. There's no word for arbejdsglæde. There's a word called kaoshi, which means death from overwork. So cultural differences do exist, okay? And this is Denmark and the US compared on 5 different parameters. And just very briefly, PDI is power distance. That's the distance between managers and employees. And you can see that this is a little higher in the US than it is in Denmark. In Denmark, you have a very chummy relationship with your manager. You can call everybody by first name. Nobody gives anybody any orders. It can actually be quite frustrating to be a boss in Denmark. The next one is individuality. You can see both Denmark is the blue one, America is the red one. And you can see both countries score very highly on individuality. We are very individualistic societies. It's about my needs. I am an individual. I do not need to sacrifice myself for the collective. Asian cultures are very low on individuality. The fourth one, uncertainty avoidance. Can we deal with uncertainty? Both countries can. And the last one is long-term orientation. Can we think in the long term? And both nations can. Now, the one where we really differ is the one in the middle, called masculinity. And you can see that on this scale, the US is fairly high, and Denmark is very low. We're actually one of the lowest. There are only 2 countries that are lower on this scale, that are more feminine in the business culture than Denmark. And those 2 countries are Norway and Sweden. This is not a coincidence. What does this mean? A masculine business culture is a culture where your results matter. We don't really care how you feel about your job. as long as you do your job. Preferably 70 or 80 or 90 hours a week, okay? In a feminine business culture, it's all about how do you feel? How's your day been? Are you okay? Can we do something for you? You know what? Don't work too hard. Work-life balance is really important. And as you can see, this is where the two cultures really, really differ. And I think this is very, very interesting. And I think this is something that we need to take into business cultures in a lot of countries, this caring how people feel. Hofstede added some words to the Danish business culture. This is some of the things he had to say. In Denmark, quality of life is the sign of success. Not how much money you make, but the quality of your life. And standing out from the crowd is not admirable. This is where Danish culture gets a little negative, okay? We don't want people to stick out. In Denmark, it's important to keep the life-work balance, and you make sure that everyone is included. An effective manager is supportive to his or her people, and decision-making is achieved through consensus involvement. And conflicts are resolved by compromise. Danes are known for their long discussions. Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yes. But this very foundation of actually caring about how people feel in the workplace, this is key, and this is something we need to introduce in the rest of the world. And anyone can be happy at work. This is something we believe in Denmark. Anyone can be happy at work. You can be a bus driver and be really happy. In fact, I met a really happy bus driver in Copenhagen a while back. I was getting on a city bus, and they see the driver. He's about 55, gray hair, gray beard, steel glasses, baseball cap. Never seen him before. And just when I get on the bus, he looks me right in the eyes and he goes, "Hey there, buddy. Welcome on board. I saved you a seat right here." He was awesome. He smiled at everybody. He talked to everybody. And as the bus was driving, he was giving little sightseeing announcements. On your right-hand side is Rosenborg Castle. It was fantastic. Anyone can be happy at work. I want to prove that with a short video from a ladies' bathroom. Yes, from a ladies' bathroom in the airport in North Carolina. If you go there and you go to the ladies' bathroom, you can meet this lady. She's called Valerie, and this is Valerie's happy restroom.
No line, no line, no waiting. Gotta go right now. Hey, how are you? Welcome to Valerie's happy restroom. Hey, make everybody feel good. It's a good day. Sunshine on the outside, sunshine on the inside. No waiting, no line, no waiting.
How awesome is that? If you want to see more of Valerie, go on YouTube and do a search for Valerie's happy restroom. And the last time I checked, there were 15 different videos that people had shot with their cell phones because they think Valerie is awesome, okay? She's really happy and she makes a lot of other people happy. Imagine coming off a long flight and you go to the bathroom and you see this. I want to make perfectly clear, I did not shoot that video. I found it on YouTube. I asked the lady who shot it if I can use it in my presentations. She said yes. And without me asking, she just told me, this is how Valerie is. She flies out of North Charlotte all the time. And every single time, this is how Valerie is. She's just ridiculously happy at work. By the way, Valerie has a motto. Her motto is, don't worry, be happy. Yeah, I know, I know. So anyone can be happy at work, and I believe that anyone should be happy at work. But how do we get there? What does it take? And I believe that this is where a lot of people get it completely wrong. We have some very, very skewed ideas of what it is that'll make us happy at work. And a lot of people end up chasing the wrong things. A lot of people end up chasing that promotion. When I get that, manager title, then I'll be happy. A lot of people chase that raise. When I get to that salary, then I'll be happy. When I get this perk, then I'll be happy. When I get this bonus, then I'll be really happy. And if you look at the research, it turns out that's not true. A raise, a bonus, promotion does make you happy for about 2 weeks. And then you're back to your original level of happiness. The solution is clear, right? We give people a raise every 2 weeks. Problem solved. Unfortunately, that's not really viable. So what is it that makes us happy at work? Let's look at that, because this is really, really important. I want you to think for a moment. Think back to a situation at work where you felt really good. Some specific situation at work where you felt really proud or satisfied or happy or engaged or whatever. You know, the last Thursday we were in a meeting and we got so much done. It was great. I felt really proud afterwards. Or, you know, last week one of my coworkers was a little unhappy and I could help him. And that really meant a lot to him, and I was so proud that I could help that guy. Think of for a moment of some situation where you were really happy at work. And what I want you to do now is turn to the person next to you. Turn to the person next to you. Find a partner where you're sitting. Everybody find a partner? And tell your partner about this situation that made you happy at work. And the person with the biggest shoe size will go first. Go! Yes. Excellent. And please switch. Please switch. Yes. Very good. Excellent. Thank you. Awesome. Are we still on here? Did we lose this? Think we lost this? No, we're good? Awesome. Oh, that's one. Perfect. Please, the story you just shared, please remember that. You're going to need it in a moment for something. But first, what is it that makes us happy at work? If it's not bonuses and raises and promotions and titles and perks and all of that, then what is it? Well, I believe looking at the research that happiness at work comes from two factors, and let's look at those. The first one is results. Getting results feels amazing. When you're good at your job, when you kick butt, when you can go home from work and say, look how much I got done today. I achieved my goals, I got my work done, I made a difference. That feels amazing. It is a major source of positive emotions in the workplace. It makes us really, really happy. That feeling of pride, that feeling of accomplishment. And it can be pure business results, like, I met my monthly sales target, I'm so happy. It can be stuff like that, but it can also be just helping someone else. Okay, a coworker of mine had a problem, I could help her, really meant a lot to her. The key here is when you create meaningful results, when you can see that you're making a positive difference for someone else. You're helping your clients, you're helping the environment, you're helping your company, you're helping your coworkers, your employees, you're helping your manager, you're helping the planet, you're helping the local community. If what you do makes a positive difference for other people, that feels amazing, and that really makes us happy at work. So how do you get results? Well, first of all, you need to be good at what you do. That's where it all starts. You need to have the knowledge, the skills, the tools, the resources to do a great job. And the workplace needs to make sure that you have those things so you actually can kick butt. And a lot of workplaces don't. A lot of workplaces actually make it really hard to do a good job. They have a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy, they have bad processes, cumbersome IT systems, and it's actually really hard to perform well and do the best possible job you can do. So that's the way to good results, is to be really good at what you do. Make sure that you can actually do a great job. However, a lot of people do a really good job, but no one ever notices. Okay, no one ever says anything. And that doesn't really give you the feeling of results. So appreciating the good work people do becomes vitally important. It's actually so important that I'd like to practice it with you guys. So please stand up. Yes, you're at a happiness presentation. We're going to do a little exercise. And this is a little exercise in praise and recognition. Can I borrow your chair for a second? I'm just going to go up here. So everyone can see me. Can the camera see me? We're good. Excellent. They're waving. Good. Now, praise and recognition are really important. And this is something we're not very good at in a lot of workplaces. And there are many ways you can praise other people. You can just go up and tell them they did a good job. You can write them an email. You can praise people in a meeting, a team meeting in front of the rest of the team. These are all awesome ways, but a way I really like is to go up to someone, put up your hand, and give them a high five. Yes, and that was a good high five, because a good high five should sting a little. Yeah. So why don't we try that? Give 3 other people a high five. Go. Yes. Very good. Now, awesome. That's when somebody does a good job. If somebody does a great job, you can take it one step further. What you do is you give them a high five like before, then you stick up your thumbs and you go, "You rock." Okay? Do that with 3 new people. High five. You rock. You rock. You rock. You rock.
I got to tell you what you rock. One sex makes us happy. You.
I know. Excellent. Thank you. Have a seat. Yes. Very good. Now, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. If you're sitting there thinking, "Oh my God, that high five, you rock, that's too much for me," then I perfectly understand, and you don't have to do it, okay? Find your own way to praise other people. But ask yourself this: what would happen if you became the kind of person who's really good at seeing the good in other people? The good things they stand for, the good things they do, seeing it and telling them about it. What would that mean to your coworkers? What would that mean to your employees if you're the manager? What would happen if you did it at home with your family, with your friends, with random strangers on the street, okay? And make no mistake about it, a well-timed word of praise can change people's lives. It can be something they remember for weeks, months, or years after. And it's something we can all do in the workplace that really makes people happy at work. You know, if you see somebody doing a good job, tell them. And this is something we can all do. It shows people they get results, shows people they make a difference, makes us really, really happy. As I said, there are 2 factors that make us happy at work. Results is one, the other is equally important, and that's relationships. Good relationships in the workplace are critical. When you like the people you work with and they like you, that's when we have good relationships. When you feel like you belong, you feel like you're valued for who you are, you feel like you can be yourself at work, you feel like, you know what, these people want me here, and I want to be here. Those relationships are a major, major source of positive emotions, of happiness in the workplace. And I think it actually goes beyond that. There was a Swiss study that looked at relationships in the workplace, and it found that people who did not have good relationships in the workplace over a 20-year period had a 3 times higher mortality, a 3 times higher risk of dying over a 20-year period if you don't have good relationships in the workplace. This is the most fundamental psychological human need. It's the need to be part of the group, to feel like I belong, they want me here, they like me. If we have that at work, we're happy. If we don't, we're really, really unhappy. So creating good relationships in the workplace is vital. How do we do that? A very simple thing we can do: take a coffee break or a lunch break where you don't talk about work. Okay, we actually get a chance to connect with your coworkers. It's such a simple thing to do, but it actually does make a difference. It gives you a chance to create those relationships. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't. More and more people skip their coffee breaks because they're busy, or they eat lunch at their desks while they work because they don't have time for that break. I think that's a mistake. You absolutely need a break throughout your workday, and you need to connect with your coworkers. So taking breaks together is absolutely vital. Another very simple thing you can do is to remember to say good morning. And I know how ridiculous and banal that sounds, but it actually does make a difference. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people just come into work in the morning, sit down, and start working. And I think that's a mistake. So why don't we practice how to say good morning? Please stand up. Yes, here we go again. Not yet, okay? Not yet. I like how you're eager, that's good. So, there are many ways you can say good morning at work. Let's say you came in really early, okay? You're already at your desk, you're sitting at your computer, you're completely focused, you're writing this really important email. Another coworker comes in behind you and says, good morning, and without looking up, you just go, "Mrr." Try that, say, "Mrr, mrr." Yeah, that's not real good. That's a level 1 good morning. Let's go to level 2. On level 2, you actually do say good morning, but you don't look at anyone. So say good morning without looking at anyone. Morning. And that's not real happy either. So let's go to level 3. And on level 3, you must look at the person you say good morning to. It's not enough to look. You must briefly make eye contact before you say good morning. You don't need to do this, okay? So make eye contact and say good morning to 3 other people. Go. Yes, way better. Now we're cooking with gas. You can also go to level 4. And on level 4, it's not enough to say good morning. You have to add something extra. You can say good morning, it's nice to see you. Good morning, I like your glasses, they're awesome. Good morning, how are you this morning? Or whatever you can come up with, okay? Just add something extra. So on level 4, make eye contact, add something extra, and say good morning to 3 new people. Go!
So far.
Hey, thanks. Glad to hear it. Yes. Fantastic. Excellent. And thank you. Finally, on level 5, the final level, the level 5 good morning. On level 5, you must also touch the person you say good morning to. And I'm thinking, I know. I'm thinking something workplace appropriate, okay? I'm thinking like a handshake, maybe a clap on the shoulder. You can hug, but only if you want to, okay? So on level 5, make eye contact, add something extra, touch the other person, say good morning to 3 new people, go! Good morning!
You look great. Great energy.
Thank you so much.
You're doing awesome.
Glad you like it. Yes. Excellent. Thank you. Have a seat. Yes. You know what? You guys did that very well. So give your neighbors a high five. You rock. And if you're thinking, oh my God, that's so banal, you're perfectly right, and that's why it works. It's such a simple little thing we can all do in the morning to create great relationships in the morning. Actually connect with your coworkers. If you're the boss and you do this with your employees, it has an amazing effect. If you're the boss and you just come in, you go into your own office, you completely ignore people, you sit down and start working, that will be noticed, and your people do hate that, I can promise you that. It works so well because it creates great relationships in the morning. Those can last throughout the day, but also because it gives you a happy start to the workday. And it turns out that the way your workday starts has a disproportionately large effect on the rest of the day. There was a study of American call center workers that showed that those people who had a good start to the day, the first thing that happened at work was positive. They were much more likely to have a good day. And problems that occurred during the day looked smaller and more manageable. So you're more optimistic and happier if you have a good start to your workday. And this saying good morning, banal though it is, can help you do that. Excellent. So, and just one more point. I realize that a lot of the suggestions I'm going to make today are really, really simple. And that's because the science shows that that's what works. If you want to read an awesome book about happiness, there's a book called The How of Happiness by Sonia Lyubomirsky. It's sort of a rule. If you want to be a notable researcher in positive psychology, you must have a really weird name. We have like Lyubomirsky, we have Csikszentmihalyi, we have a lot of weird people. Weird names, I should say, weird names. Let's face it, and weird people. In this book, she talks about, okay, what does the happiness research say actually makes you happier? What do we know from the science? And she spends basically the whole first chapter apologizing for the fact that all of her suggestions are so simple. It's really stupid little things that work, that actually make us happier according to the science. And her book is about happiness in life. The exact same thing goes in the workplace. There are simple little things we can all do. So let's sum up here about what makes us happy at work. These are the two things, results and relationships. When you do great work together with great people, that's when you're happy at work. When you come home from a day where you had results and relationships, oh my God, I got so much done today. I kicked butt. I was awesome. I really made a difference. I could help some people. They were so happy. And we had such a great time together in the office. Everybody was happy, smiling. We had a great coffee break. Everybody was laughing. Those are the things that make us happy. That's when you come home and you've had a great day. That's when you come home with more energy for your playing with your kids and being with your spouse and exercise and hobbies and friends and the rest of your life. And that's when you're excited to come back the next day. Those are the good days. Then there are the other days. The days with no results and no relationships. Oh my God, we got nothing done today. Everyone was running around with their hair on fire and we got nowhere. In fact, I think we're further behind now than we were yesterday. And everybody was complaining and dissatisfied, and everybody was in a really bad mood today in the office. It was no fun being there. So if you look at the research, I believe that 80 to 90% of our happiness, of our positive emotions in the workplace, come from these two factors, results and relationships. When you do a great job together with great people. Think back to before, when you shared an experience that made you happy at work. Think about your experience and try and decide for a moment, was your experience mostly about results? Was it mostly about relationships? Or was it a little bit of both? And let's see where you guys are. How many of you would say my experience was mostly about results? Being good at what I do, making a difference. Let's look around. That looks like about 30% of you. Awesome. How many of you would say my experience was mostly about relationships? It looks like about 25%. And how many of you would say it was both? Yes. And how many of you never put up your hand in public? One guy. Awesome. I'm watching you. And we absolutely need both, okay? That being said, some people focus more on one than the other, okay? Some people are especially happy when they get results, when they're good at what they do, they reach their goals, they can make a difference. And other people say that's fine, but they are especially happy when they get great relationships. You know, these people like me, they need me, they trust me, I belong. And it's really important to know what's most important to you and what's most important to the people you work with, so you can work more efficiently together. And it's important to realize that we absolutely, all of us, every single person in the world needs both if we want to be happy at work, both results and relationships. So, I'm going to skip that in the interest of time. So if it's so simple, Alex, Why isn't everybody happy at work? Right? Why aren't all workplaces happy? In fact, why are so many workplaces unhappy? Why are, according, different statistics vary, but why are, according to some studies, why are 45% of Americans unhappy at work? Why are 40% of Brits unhappy at work? Why are, 55% of Germans unhappy at work? Why are, according to some statistics, 65% of Japanese unhappy at work? And I think this guy is partly to blame. It's not his fault alone. This is Plato. And he said in one of his works that work is something slaves should do so that free men have time to enjoy life. Okay? I'm not blaming Plato alone, but this has been a part of our human history and culture for thousands of years. There's been a fundamental assumption that work is hard, work is unpleasant, and if you didn't have to work, you wouldn't do it. Work was something you did only in order to survive. And work has been hard and unpleasant for centuries, for thousands of years. This is a child worker in a textile factory in England during the Industrial Revolution. This picture is from 1830, sorry. And work back then was horrible. People worked long hours. They worked 16, 18, 20 hours a day. They worked with dangerous chemicals. They worked with dangerous machines. People got sick. People got hurt. They got paid nothing. Work was absolutely horrible. By the way, there were attempts to improve working conditions. They passed a law in England in 1819 that said that children could only work a maximum of 16 hours a day. Yes. That improved conditions for children at the time, believe it or not. So there's no doubt that work has been really hard or unpleasant, but this is not what work is like anymore for most people. For most people. But that attitude is still with us. This cultural bias that says that work is hard, work is unpleasant. And I blame that attitude. I think that's why a lot of people simply accept bad workplaces. They accept bad conditions. They accept bad bosses because, hey, what else is there? That's just the way it is, and everywhere else is just as bad. And I think we need to break that cycle. Otherwise, we might end up like these people. This is the Foxconn factory, one of their buildings in China, in Shenzhen. They make a lot of electronic products, including all the Apple products, Philips products, Sony products, tons of different products. This is one of their buildings. Do you notice anything weird about this building? I'm not talking about the sexy shirtless guy. No windows, and you can see these nets. Do you know why those nets are there? To prevent people from committing suicide. Yes. There was a wave of suicide among Foxconn employees in 2010. And I can't know this, but I guess that at some point they had a meeting inside of Foxconn, and they said, oh my God, look at all those suicides. What should we do? And someone must have said, I know. I have the solution. Nets. And I don't want you to think that this is China. Working conditions are bad in China. This is not limited to Asia. In 2008 and 2009, there was a string of suicides among workers at France Telecom, the national French tel company. It ended when one employee in the parking lot in front of the office doused himself with gasoline, lit himself on fire, and died in front of the workplace. Why? Bad management, constant change, constant uncertainty, massive pressure on the employees. And this is how bad things can get. It can drive people to kill themselves. We need to stop that. We need to change that attitude completely and make work something you want to do, not something you have to do. And that is our mission in our company this is what we work for. Also because happiness at work is really, really good for you. And there are many, many reasons why this is so. I've listed the 3 most important here. First of all, time. Have you ever thought about what you'll spend your time on over an entire lifetime? From you're born until you die, from cradle to grave, 73 years on average for men, 76 years on average for women. Ever thought about that? They've done time studies to figure that out. And it turns out that the number one thing we spend time on over an entire lifetime is sleep, and number 2 is work. Does anybody know what number 3 is? Eating? No. Commuting? No. No. Television. Television is number 3. That scares me. I was giving a presentation last week in Denmark, and I asked the audience, does anybody know what number 3 is? And someone says, yes, sex. It's not, okay? Sex is like number 37. So you will spend most of your waking hours at work, okay? And this statistic includes everybody. This is babies and toddlers and retired people and everybody, okay? If we look at only adults with full-time jobs, if we look at just that part of the population, that group spends more time at work than they do on their friends, their families, and their hobbies put together, combined. And when you spend that much time on anything, it should be something you enjoy, okay? Otherwise, it's just a massive waste of time. It's just a massive waste of life. Secondly, happiness in life. It turns out that being happy at work makes you happy in life. In fact, again, positive psychology has studied this for a number of years now, and it turns out there are 3 factors that really make us happy in life, and I'm going to give you those 3. First factor that makes us happy in life is a good romantic relationship. That's the most important thing. I heard a true from here. That's awesome. In fact, it turns out that men who live in a good romantic relationship live on average 6.5 years longer than men who don't. Ladies, you get 2.5 years. I'm sorry. You live longer to begin with. It's only fair. So that's the number one thing that makes us happy in life, is a good romantic relationship. Number 2 is friends. A few close friendships, not 500 friends on Facebook, but a few close friendships are the second most important thing that makes us happy in life. And the third most important thing, according to these studies, is a good and meaningful job. A good and meaningful job. A job you like that is meaningful to you. It's not just a job. It's not just I work this many hours and I get this salary and that's it. There's a larger purpose to it. Third most important thing that makes us happy in life. And there are 2 things you can take away from this. First of all, that work is really important. But secondly, it's not the most important. Okay, there are other things that make us even happier in life, and work shouldn't be the be-all and end-all of your existence. I was giving a speech in Copenhagen a couple of years ago, and I told them this, men who live in a good romantic relationship live 6.5 years longer. And then I hear a female voice somewhere in the first row, and very quietly to herself, she goes, "Oh no." I have no idea what that was about. And finally, health. It turns out that I actually don't think that being happy at work makes you healthier. But we know from a number of studies that being unhappy at work makes you unhealthy. Can make you sick, can ultimately kill you. There was a study of 22,000 American nurses that showed that nurses who hated their jobs had a much higher risk of getting diseases like cancer, heart disease, stress and depression, and type 2 diabetes. So absolutely can ruin your health to hate your job. And there's actually left some of the statistics and some of the sources in there if you want to look at those. And also, when you are happy at work, you do a better job. Okay, there are a number of studies from psychology, sociology, and neurology that look at what happens to us when we're in a good mood, when you're happy. And it turns out that happy people are better at all of this. When you're happy, you're more productive and get more work done. You're more creative, you have more and better ideas, you're more helpful, you sell more, you're a better manager, and so on. All of these things you do better when you're in a good mood. Which, of course, also means that happy workplaces make more money because their employees do a better job. One of my favorite examples is Southwest Airlines, a very happy workplace, very successful, very profitable. In fact, it's one of only 2 major airlines that's been profitable every single year for 35 years in an industry where other companies lose billions they've actually had a profit every single year for 35 years. Why? For many reasons, but mostly they say because our employees are happy. I've tried it myself. Been on a Southwest flight once. It was a great experience. I was giving a speech in Copenhagen a couple years ago, and a talk about Southwest Airlines. And suddenly the CEO of the company stands up and tells everybody that he's actually tried it. And he tells them that he was in the US, he was getting on a Southwest flight, he's walking down the aisle with his little suitcase. He opens the overhead compartment, and lying in the overhead compartment is a flight attendant. He did not see that coming. And just as he opens it, she looks out and she goes, "Boo!" And that's the kind of thing they do. If they have a flight attendant who's short, they'll hide her in the overhead compartment and she goes, "Boo!" They want to make flying fun. They want to make working fun. And this formula has worked for them now for 35 years, and I think it's amazing. And the truth of this is this: happy companies make more money, and there's any number of studies backing this up. So I want to make this perfectly clear that creating a happy workplace, it's not naive, it's not idealistic, it's not some socialist pipe dream. It's a hardcore business decision, and happy companies make more money. And finally, I want to get to, again, some sources on that if you want this. I'm going to skip this again in the interest of time. But how do we get there? What does it take? How do we create happy workplaces? I want to give you 5 quick pointers, 5 things it takes to get there. First of all, happiness has to be a strategic priority. Okay? If you want to create a happy workplace, it must be taken seriously throughout the organization. I think Southwest Airlines are a fantastic example of this. And what they say at Southwest Airlines is that our most important strategic priority, the number one thing at Southwest Airlines, is our employees. We want them to be happy, and that's where we focus on. That's what we focus on first. Most important thing, because when they're happy, they make the customers happy. The customers are the second priority. When the customers are happy, the customers come back. We make more money. That helps the bottom line. The bottom line is the third priority. And I think this is a very enlightened view. Of course, a lot of companies do it the other way around. They say that our number one priority, the customer comes first, right? The customer is king. The customer is always right. But if you do that, your customers will be more unhappy. Some companies put the bottom line first. If you do that, you make less money. If you put your employees first, you get happy customers and happy investors. They've been doing this for 35 years. It works. Google does the exact same thing. Hire happy people. If you want to create a happy workplace, you cannot hire miserable bastards, okay? Because they will come in and they will ruin it for everybody else. Okay? One unhappy person can bring down 25 other people without breaking a sweat. Okay? You got to hire happy people. And more specifically than that, not just people who are already happy. You got to hire people who will be happy working for you. And some people will fit perfectly into your organization, and other people will be miserable working for your company. You got to figure that out. I think a great example of that is Zappos. In Vegas, you all know Zappos, right? Yes. Sells shoes and clothes and electronics online. Turnover last year was $3 billion, and the company's 12 years old. That's pretty good. A very happy workplace, very successful, excellent customer ratings. And the reason they say why that is so is that they have this culture. This defines the Zappos culture, these 10 points. Okay? Be humble, do more with less. And my favorite, number 3, create fun and a little weirdness. And you need to fit in with this if you want a job at Zappos. So a typical interview question at Zappos will be, okay, Tim, on a scale from 1 to 10, how weird are you? And if you say 1 or 2, you probably won't get the job because you'll be a little too straight-laced, okay? If you say 9 or 10, you're probably too psychotic. You won't get the job either. Of course, they'd also ask you, so why do you say 4, right? And it's a conversation starter. But you need to fit into this. If you don't fit in with this, you will be really unhappy working at Zappos. So they're really careful about who they hire. And then they do the coolest thing ever. Once they've hired you, inside of the first month, your training period, you get the offer. The offer. Every new employee at Zappos gets the offer. The offer is this. If you quit inside the first month, we'll pay you $3,000. Yeah, $3,000 cold hard cash. Here you go, to quit right now. And what this does is it weeds out the people who are not completely certain. The people who think, you know what, I'm not really sure about this Zappos thing, but I really need a job. They leave right there, and that is much, much cheaper than having them around for a year. And then they decide to quit. This is the coolest thing ever. I think every company should do this. By the way, if you turn down the offer and say, no, I really want this job at Zappos, then you get it again after 3 months. And now, it's $4,000. $4,000 to quit. I think it's awesome. Also, happy workplaces, and this is common across all the world's happiest workplaces, is they have a larger purpose than just profits. I want to share an example. This is an ad from Patagonia, and this was they ran this on the internet on Black Friday 2 years ago, saying, don't buy this jacket. Do not buy this jacket. There's a long explanation. You know, producing a jacket is bad for the environment, takes up raw materials, energy, produces CO2. If you don't need a jacket, don't buy this jacket. Do you have an old jacket you can fix up? Can you get a used jacket from a friend? Can you do whatever? And only buy this jacket if you really need this. And that's because Patagonia is dedicated. They make ski clothes, swimwear, mountain climbing gear, that kind of thing. Headquarters in Southern California. They are dedicated to something more important than profits. They're dedicated to the environment. That's their vision, their mission at Patagonia is to improve the environment. This is more important than profits, and that's why they say, don't buy this jacket. They also have something that they call 1% for the planet. And every year, this means that every year, Patagonia will give 1% of turnover or 10% of profits, whichever is largest. They will give that to environmental causes chosen by the employees. And can you imagine the sense of pride that gives the people who work there, knowing that our work helps heal the planet? It improves the environment, makes the world a better place. That is a major, major source of happiness at work right there. And if you work at a company that only cares about profits, that only cares about the bottom line, it's almost impossible to create a happy workplace. 2 more. Create a culture of praise. We tried it. High five, you rock. I want to show you an awesome picture. This is Richard Branson again. And this is from Richard Branson's favorite thing to do all year. It's the Virgin Star Awards. Once a year, they find those Virgin employees who have really lived up to the Virgin culture. They fly all of those people to London, and they celebrate those people at a huge party where Richard Branson will recognize each and every one of those. And here's what he says. I believe that the way you treat your employees is the way they treat the customer. And people flourish if they're praised. And creating that culture of positive feedback where we tell people when they do a good job. Again, this is something they do all across the world's happiest workplaces, a major source of happiness. And by the way, also tell people when they do a bad job. This is not only about praising people, it's also about giving negative feedback when that is warranted. And finally, celebrate your victories. Okay, celebrate your victories. When something goes well in most workplaces, we just take it for granted. You know, that project that completes on time, we don't talk about that. But this project over here that's late, oh my God. We have to write reports, we have to have meetings, status updates all the time. So celebrating when something goes right is incredibly important. And that's the final tip I want to give you today. And actually, I'd like to try that with you guys. So please stand up. And I promise it's the last one for today. So we're going to do a little exercise. So please find yourself a new partner. Find yourself a new partner. Someone you don't already know. Introduce yourself. And have a seat together. Sit down together with your partner. Have a seat together. Sit down. Yes. Very good. You can sit down. You can sit down. You may sit if you want, or you can stand. It's okay. So there are many ways to celebrate success. I just want to give you some inspiration. Here is one way to celebrate when things go right.
Roll, please. Today's winner, today's Kid Reporter is...
Deirdre Shores! It's you! Deirdre, it's you!
It's you, Deirdre.
It's you!
You're the winner.
Won.
You're today's Kid Show Kid Reporter winner. You're the winner, Deirdre.
Stop playing with me.
You're the winner.
Stop playing with me.
You're the winner.
Stop playing
You're
with
the winner, Deirdre. You just broke my eardrums. You okay? Take a deep breath. Deep breath. Deep breath. There you go. Wow. How do you feel about this?
I want to cry. I am so happy right now. This is the best. Wait, can you say it one more time?
Deirdre Shores, you are today's Kid Reporter.
Did you hear that?
How awesome is that? You don't have to do that, okay? But here's the exercise. In a moment, you must ask your partner this question. Tell me about something really cool you've done at work recently. Your partner has about 30 seconds to brag about something they've done really well, and then we'll switch. And the person who is born earliest in the year will ask the question first. Go. Yes, excellent, and switch. Please switch. Yes. Awesome. Excellent. Thank you. And give your partner a high five. You rock. This is such a cool thing to do at work. What if you started team meetings, project meetings, department meetings by doing what we've just done here? You know, you have your whole agenda, item 1, item 2, then you introduce item 0, success. And before the meeting starts, everybody pairs up, you tell them something cool you've done, you hear what they've done, and then the meeting starts. It's such a simple way to celebrate success, and celebrating success creates both results and relationships, which is why it's so effective. And it's something we do way too little of in most workplaces. So I'm going to skip all of these. Just go to basically the summation here. Happiness at work makes a huge difference. It really matters to us as individuals that we're happy at work, and happy companies make more money. The two things that really make us happy at work are results and relationships, doing great work together with great people. And I hope I've shared some specific tools that you can use to make yourself and others happy at work. And mostly, I just want to leave you, we're going to go to questions, Q&A in a moment. There's some more information here if you want that, our websites, newsletter, and so on. But mostly, I want to leave you with this quote from a famous philosopher. Do or do not, there is no try. And I believe that happiness at work is something we do every single day together in the workplace. Managers and employees and executives and all of us, we create a good work day or we don't. And then we do it the next day again, or we don't. And we can all make a difference. Do or do not, there is no try. Thank you very much. Sure. This one?
Yes.
That one?
The next one.
That one?
That one.
Awesome.
Thank you. That was great.
Glad you liked it.
Yes, I liked it very much. You rock.
Thanks.
Also, you can go to the blog. Is that Chief Happiness Officer?
The blog is called, but the address is that one, positivesharing.com.
Okay. So blog's certainly worth reading, and also you can read Happiness. I want to get the title right for the book.
Happy Hours 9 to 5.
Thank you. Happy
Yes.
Hours 9 to 5. You can read it at the website. You can also order it there, and it's well worth reading. So I want you to talk about the physical embodiment of happiness, because well, first of all, everybody here is really good at following instructions. It was really impressive that you all got up and did all that stuff. But one of the things I noticed is you had everybody stand up, right? There's a lot of physical interaction. Can you talk a little bit about either the science or the practice, the physicality of happiness?
Yes. There are a couple of things we know for sure. You will notice that some of the exercise I did today involved touching, like the high five, the level 5 good morning, not in a weird way, right? But like light touches. It actually turns out there was a study that was referenced in the New York Times 2 years ago that showed that workplaces that have those light touches are actually happier and more productive than workplaces who don't. And again, it creates relationships. It's really very simple. And it's a basic part of human nature, and it's how you show people that you belong to the group. It's that handshake, pat on the shoulder, the hug, the high five, whatever you're comfortable with, obviously. And we're all different, and workplaces are different. So that's certainly one aspect. Moving around itself has a really positive effect. However, how many of you spend most of your workday sitting down? Yes, it turns out that's actually really bad for you. It's bad for your health. It turns out that even if you're in good shape, even if you go home and you run 5 miles in the evening, sitting down all day is still really bad for your health. And you'll have a higher body fat percentage and a higher risk of heart disease if you spend your workday sitting down. And also, sitting down all day lowers your energy, and when your energy is low, it's hard to be happy. So getting up and moving around actually increases your happiness, releases endorphins. We know all of that. This is not rocket science.
Yeah. There's pretty good evidence that standing up, a lot of people have moved towards standing desks.
Yes.
Right.
The new thing is treadmill desks.
Yes, treadmill, which are dangerous. If you've seen the video of the guy falling off his treadmill desk.
You say dangerous, I say hilarious.
Yes. It's funny till it happens. Standing up every 20 minutes, if you do sit at a static desk, just standing up and engaging your major muscle groups has a positive health benefit on you. Okay, so I work at a very buttoned-down office. It's a very buttoned-down office.
Yes.
In fact, I went there and I asked them when I was interviewing, what could I do, because you can't define corporate culture, it's hard for people to figure out, what could I do that would violate corporate culture, make me feel like I was standing naked in the middle of the office?
Yeah.
They couldn't come up with anything.
Okay.
And what I've discovered is that if I say no to an Outlook meeting request and I don't have a conflict on my calendar,
Yeah.
this raises people's ire. They come over and say, but you didn't have a conflict. I said,
Yeah.
I'm trying to do work. So with that in mind, I would like some tips, practically speaking, as an individual, and I'm going to go up the org chart. Just give me a really brief rundown of what I can start doing tomorrow to help sustain this beyond what you've talked about already, beyond the good morning.
Yeah. I think it's important to think in terms of results and relationships, okay? Start there. Because, again, it's not about, introducing more perks into the office won't help. Zumba classes, massages, all that is really nice, but it doesn't make us happy. And and unfortunately, that's what a lot of workplaces and a lot of people try. Okay, where morale is flagging, Zumba classes. It's not going to work, okay? Unless you think in terms of results and relationships. So what can you do to make yourself better at what you do, to help someone else perform better, and to create better relationships in the workplace? And you got to respect the culture of the individual workplaces, okay? And there's stuff you can get away with in company A that would get you drummed out of company B. And you got to respect that. But that being said, you also have to be willing to push the boundary a little bit. Because if we all do what we've all been doing all the time, nothing will change. So some very specific things that I've noticed work in a lot of workplaces is, for instance, random acts of workplace kindness. This is when you do something nice for someone else at work that they were not expecting. Okay, let's say you went to the coffee machine to get yourself a cup of coffee. Why not bring a cup of coffee for someone else who did not ask for it? Just here, I brought you a cup of coffee. Here you go. You don't have to add, you look like you need it. Leave candy on someone's desk. Someone who loves candy, leave candy for them anonymously. Write a nice note for someone. Put a post-it on their screen saying, "You're awesome. I really enjoy working with you." Tiny little things like that can have a disproportionately large effect for two reasons. First of all, it shows that you care. Someone cares about me. Someone wants me to be happy. That's really important to us. And secondly, neurological studies show that when something nice happens to you, the pleasure center in your brain lights up. If something nice happens to you that you expect, it lights up a little. If something nice happens to you that you did not expect, it lights up 3 times more. So it makes us way happier when nice, surprising things happen. And this is something we can all do. Tiny little things can make people stay. So that's, and I don't think you can really go wrong with that, no matter how buttoned down the office is. As for meetings, by the way, I firmly believe that all meetings should be voluntary. All meetings should be voluntary. People should only show up if they believe, I belong in that meeting, I can contribute, this is the best possible use of my time today. Radical idea, I know.
Yeah.
So crazy, it just might work.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you one more question, then I'll open it up to the audience. Have you done or do you know of work on virtual workplaces? So,
Yes.
Yahoo has raised
Yeah,
a
they
bit
just
of
rolled that back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you actually find in terms of happiness in virtual work?
What I find is that it can be great for results because people working in remote offices, remote offices for them, it cuts out a lot of the distractions, okay? Like the endless meetings. However, it makes it harder to maintain relationships, and you have to work consciously at that with remote workers. It's easier to create relationships when you're in the same room at the same time. That being said, there are ways to do it. You can communicate via email, you can call people up on the phone, you can chat, you can Skype. One IT company I saw set up an iPad on a swivel base and kept Skype on it all the time in the office and in the remote office. So when they need to talk, they don't need to call each other up. They can just look over and say, "Hey, I have a question." And that's a way to connect people. And by the way, there is I think Marissa Mayer blew it when she, not just eliminating remote working, but the way she did it at Yahoo. I think it'll come back and bite her on the ass. And there's a book coming out this fall called Remote by David Heinemeier Hansson and Jason Fried. I highly recommend it. That book is going to be awesome. It's all in defense of remote working, virtual workplaces, and how to do that. They've been doing that for ages now. It's a software company, insanely successful, have people working for them all over the world.
Great, thanks. So why don't we open this up to questions and just wait for the microphone. Why don't we start in the back over here, the gentleman in the blue.
You've probably heard this question many times before, but I was still curious. Your build is Denmark's chief happiness officer. So I'm wondering what Denmark's chief unhappiness officer would have to say about your arguments. Do you think you could convince Kierkegaard of the weight of your ideas? And could you make him happy?
Well, that's a good question. Kierkegaard, the famous existentialist philosopher, I actually do believe that this fits in very well with existential philosophy. And if anybody wants to look into this, there is a fabulous book called Freedom and Responsibility at Work, which is basically a look at existential philosophy and how to apply that to the workplace. And basically, it is about taking charge of your own existence, about realizing that I am responsible for my own life. I am responsible for my own work life. I need to determine what kind of life I want to lead. And I need to determine if the way I'm working now makes me happy or unhappy. That being said, I'm pretty sure that Søren Kierkegaard did not use the word arbejdsglæde much. Yeah.
Anyone else? Oh, so go ahead.
Thanks a lot for your talk. I wish there was more CEOs here attending to hear this and they try to apply that to their companies. But I just wonder if you have any comments regarding that. Actually finding out what you would be good at it. And also the company or the path that you choose, that you end up building good relationships. Because before entering a career or even a company, you don't know prior to that how that's going to turn out.
Yeah.
And I think most of us in life are kind of like random bouncing around and having this brownie motion in our life to go forward. For example, you have been software engineer and now you have ended up giving talks around.
Yeah, how weird is that, right?
So I wonder, do you have any comments regarding to find out what you would be good at? And the other thing, I just wanted to have this philosophy that you have in your head in terms of, you said Plato says, slave works, free man enjoys life.
Yeah.
I think most of us are unhappy because we would wonder, instead of spending this time working, I could have enjoyed it in some other way. For example, I would lay down at the beach and enjoy the sun.
Yes.
So
exactly.
It's very difficult to convince yourself that why should I spend my time here instead of doing. I think you should enjoy work the most in order to prefer it to anything else.
Yes.
Okay. So if you have any comments regarding
well,
this.
absolutely, and that is the attitude to work that we've had for a long time now, right? It's work sucks, and work cuts into my free time. Imagine that there's work time and free time. What does that make work? Unfree time, right? Bound time. Think about this for a moment. What is the opposite of work? Play, exactly. So work is not play, work is serious. And then some say the opposite of work is free time. So work is not free, it's unfree time. So that is the attitude we had. And actually, I honestly believe that work can be so much fun that you'd actually rather be at the office than at the beach. Or at least you wouldn't want to be on the beach all the time. There's a famous quote by Noel Coward who said that work is much more fun than fun. And as for the other question, finding a job you like. I think, again, think in terms of results and relationships. Looking into this workplace, considering the position there, will I be able to kick butt? Will I be able to make a positive difference for my company, for my customers, for the world, for my coworkers? And will I have great relationships? Will I fit in? Will these people like me for who I am? Can I be myself in this workplace? These are the questions to ask. You should obviously negotiate for a good salary. You should negotiate for a bonus and a pension plan and healthcare and all of that, obviously. But those should not be the goals. What you should look for is a workplace where you can have great results and great relationships. And that can be hard to find out. You may need to ask some different questions to find that out. I find a great question to ask in a job interview is, okay, dear interviewer, tell me about a time when you were happy at work. Oh yeah. Or who do you have a really good relationship with in this workplace? Who's really nice? Who do you like being with? Who do you admire? And if they look at you really strangely like, what is this guy talking about? Then maybe this is not the place with results and relationships. And if they go, oh my God, let me tell you about John. John is awesome, okay? Or let me tell you about last week when our department completed this project and we had a celebration. It was so much fun. Then you know. But it takes more work than just asking about salaries and bonuses and perks and pension plans and whatever. But that's what you need to think in terms of. Otherwise, you will not be happy at work.
There's also pretty good evidence that mastery plays a big role in that, in the results piece of it, right?
Yes.
If you feel like you're mastering your job, which isn't about existential satisfaction with life, it's about the task in front of you, mastering it and moving on, and that as you build mastery, you're going to actually feel more satisfied and happy.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So changing frame of reference.
I actually have a question.
Please.
So, one of the things that Rebecca Solnit has said is that democracies are predicated on this belief that people are good. And it seems that a lot of organizations, at least the organizations that Tim describes in his book, are predicated on this other belief that people are either lazy or dishonest, and so they need to be sort of micromanaged. And that creates a lot of misery. And I might be not remembering, Alex, but didn't you in your book say something about autonomy as a factor?
Yes.
Because that's a factor. So you mentioned relationships and you mentioned results, but could you say something about autonomy? Because I know that's key
Yes.
for my happiness at work.
Absolutely. And when we have more time and when we speak, especially when we speak to groups of CEOs, one of the things we argue is set your people free. And don't give them, one of the happiest workplaces in Denmark is a bank called Middelfart Savings and Loans. Yes, there is a town in Denmark called Middelfart. Not even kidding. I used to live there. It's a lovely place. And one of the things they've done in this bank, one of Denmark's happiest workplaces, is they have eliminated all the rules. Every single rule is gone. There's no dress code. There's no limit to what size loan you can approve. Seriously, all the rules are gone. And they say, you know what? You guys, all you fantastic employees, they have about 250 people, all of you are responsible adults. Otherwise, we would not have hired you. You can make your own decisions. If you say it's a nice summer day, I'll go to work in shorts, you can go to work in shorts. You are capable of making that decision. If you look at this business, they want a loan of this size, you say, you know what? That's a good loan, let's give them that. You can give them that loan. And this level of freedom, what I believe it does is it makes us happy because it allows us to get better results. Okay, I can do a way better job when I'm free to make my own decisions than when I have to seek approval every step of the way, when I have to fight massive amounts of bureaucracy and red tape, or when some boss is micromanaging me because they don't trust me to make my own decisions. As for dress codes, I think they're fundamentally stupid. Does anybody know the dress code at Google? The dress code at Google is you must wear clothes. I think that's fair enough. That's okay. I like that. So I think freedom helps us get better results. And when I'm free to create results, the results I create are mine, and they're more meaningful to me.
You mentioned you work with clients,
Yes.
right? I was just curious of some of the processes you walk clients through.
Yeah. Well, again, results and relationships. Look into this organization. What's making your employees really happy? What's making them really unhappy that you can stop doing? Great question to ask. Working with the top-level managers to make sure that they understand the strategic priority. Working with mid-level managers so they can make their employees happy. Working with the employees so they can make themselves and the customers happy. Teaching people the simple little things that we can all do. One of my favorite examples, we did a lot of work with IKEA, one IKEA warehouse in Denmark. And they weren't really unhappy, but they could see that customer satisfaction was falling, employee satisfaction was falling. So we worked with, again, managers, executives, employees, and it became such a happy workplace. I mean, they were ridiculously happy, okay? The bed department, one Saturday when they're really busy, they all put on bathrobes, working the store, they're all in bathrobes. They arrange a pillow fight between the employees and the client, the customers. Oh yeah, and by the way, one of the manager of the bed department, this IKEA, he hides inside one of the wardrobes. And you know what people are like in IKEA, right? They're looking in all the cupboards and drawers, and every time people open that wardrobe, he'd step out and say, yeah, can I help you? They became so happy. They became good at praising each other, celebrating success, creating results in relationships. And here's the cool thing. Sales went up, profits went up, employee absenteeism went down, employee turnover went down, customer satisfaction went up, and it's a ridiculously happy place now.
Do you find American clients to be interested in your argument?
Yes, absolutely. I have clients over here. They get it. They love it. It's sometimes you have to convince people, as I said, that it's even possible to create a happy workplace, that it's even possible to be happy at work. But once they realize that, the question is, okay, how do we do it? And that's where we can help. Thanks.
Thanks. Back here.
Awesome questions, by the way.
Thank you so much for your comments. They really inspiring and uplifting. Appreciate that. And I just attended a conference last month in Amsterdam called Playfulness, which you would have loved. You should have been there speaking.
Yes.
But my observation was that out of 300 people, probably 299 of them were under 40 years of age.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering about the differences in generations toward
Yes.
this, because I have to work with cross-generational and cross-cultural teams where you've got a real range of people specifically on creativity and innovation.
Yeah.
And how can you approach this topic with a diverse team?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I do see generational differences. For instance, the Gen Yers and the Millennials, they get it. I mean, none of them, take a job expecting it to suck. They want a job that'll challenge them, where they can shine, where they can be acknowledged for who they are and the work they do. And honestly, I think that's how everybody comes into the workforce, pretty much. It's just that some people have it beaten out of them over a period of years. And one of the saddest things, one thing I seriously hate to see is, people who've been in the same job for 10, 15, 20 years, they don't really like it. Maybe they don't hate it, but they're certainly not happy at work, but they're just there. They show up every single day, and some of them go, well, it's only 8 years to retirement. And I just hate to see that. And you can reach those people as well and convince them that it's important to be happy at work. You too can be happy at work. It's about results and relationships. Here's what you can do. But sometimes it takes a lot more work. At one point, I was considering just, giving up on everybody over the age of 40. And saying, let's focus on the young people. They come in happy, let's keep them happy. And in 50 years, everyone will be happy at work. But that time horizon is just a little too long for my impatience. So no, everybody should be happy at work. Everybody could be happy at work, even people over the age of 40, present company included. Yeah.
Just pass it down. Did you still have a question? Okay. How about in the back here?
I can just confirm, I worked in a building that had nets.
Yes, really?
They exist. It's at Harvard Medical School, just down the road.
Interesting.
And my question is actually related to this, related to the last question and to the nets, which is, at what point in our education system here in the United States do we go from really encouraging people, praising them, which it's sort of a long way back for me to remember, but as a kid, I know everything was positive. Even, you drew some horrible drawing that you look back and you're like, that is, I don't know why anybody would like this, but somebody told me it was great. I guarantee you, maybe multiple people. And I remember then middle school, high school, college for me, it was like, I don't have any fond memories of that. Nothing positive happening. So I expected the rest of life to be that way, almost like I was being reoriented for that.
Wow.
And yeah, right. It's a great story.
Yeah.
But I wonder to what extent that might be also a divide between the United States, the rest of the world, or at least with Europe, in the culture of education and the way that people are raised to enter the workforce.
That's a fascinating question. I was giving a speech in New York on Monday, and I talked to this Danish lady who'd moved to New York to work with her family and her kids, and they were now in middle school in New York. And she said the schooling, the culture in the school was insanely hard. It was so tough, and it's way different than Danish schools. In Danish schools, the kids learn to work together. They learn to collaborate on a lot of projects. It's not all about the grades. It's also about enjoying your school day. And she said that aspect was really missing. She found that the academic level in school was higher than it was in Denmark. But the culture was way harder, way tougher, really raw. So that might actually be one of the reasons why it gets beaten out of people, maybe even earlier than they come into the workplace. Maybe they lose it in school already. By the way, speaking of praising children, it turns out that praising everything children do is really bad for them. So the next time your child comes up with a drawing, you don't say, "Oh my God, that's fantastic." What you should do, according to researchers, is you praise the process. Wow, you worked so hard on that drawing. So you're sitting there for 45 minutes, that's amazing. Same thing with math tests, you worked so hard on that math test. Don't praise the result, praise the effort. and that teaches kids to make an effort. Whereas if you just praise the result, you just see, what happens then is the next time they run into problems, here's a math problem they can't solve, they're much more likely to give up than if you praise the effort. Same mom told me that her kid had come up with a drawing, and she'd looked at it and she said, yeah, that's fine. And the kid had gone, no, 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 you're supposed to say it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, please, here in the front.
I know Denmark well, we are a big employer there.
Oh, sorry, hold on.
We need the microphone for the camera, I think.
Microphone, sorry.
Enjoyed your chat. I'm with Kinodia. We have operation all over the Nordic countries.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to hear your perspective on Denmark. Denmark is an extremely homogeneous culture.
Yes.
The school is not as competitive as in the US, number one.
True.
Number two, it is a very nepotism culture. You need to know each other. The politics over there, it's extremely nepotism.
Oh, yeah.
And innovation is very weak.
Yes.
So,
in some areas.
We are the second largest employer in Enskede and in Sweden, so I'm there quite a bit.
Cool.
The issue is, this kind of thing works in different cultures. For me, we are in industrial mining technology side. My question to you is, we provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner to all our employees around the world.
Mm-hmm.
That has brought a lot more productivity for us, but the level of productivity change has been different. So the question I have for you is, Nordic countries are not very happy in their personal lives. They're happy as a status, happy in their culture, but the highest rate of suicide, highest rate of divorces in the world.
True.
So,
partly true, but yes.
So how do you equate jumping around where people don't even say hello when you cross the roads?
Yeah.
They're extremely private. It negates 90% of the stuff we have discussed today.
You point to something very, very true and very important. And how many of you have seen those articles that say that Denmark is the happiest country on the planet? Yeah, that's totally not true. We are the most satisfied country on the planet, and there's a difference, exactly. And all of those studies that put Denmark at number one measure life satisfaction. Sort of the overarching question is, okay, all things in your life considered, on a scale from 1 to 10, how satisfied are you? And Danes come out with the highest average in the world, 8.3, and how could we not? Danish society is homogeneous, it's stable, it's safe, we trust each other, we can trust the politicians, we can trust the government, we can trust the police, we have free universities, free healthcare, free everything, right? So we're very satisfied. We are not very happy. If you walk down the street in Copenhagen, you smile at a random stranger, they will look at you very strangely, like what is wrong with that person? And they actually did a comparative study where they looked at happiness, not life satisfaction, using something called the day reconstruction method. And it turns out that on that scale, Denmark is number 12, not number 1, and the 3 top countries are all Latin American: Costa Rica, Panama, and Mexico. Which is fairly interesting, right? And what is it they have that we've forgotten? Friends and family. Friends and family. And sunlight. And sunlight. And sunlight helps, yes. I like you. Yes. So in the middle of all of that, they're chasing material wealth in Denmark for the last 40, 50 years. We've forgotten something very important: friends and family. Which, interestingly, in countries that are a lot poorer than Denmark, they still remember, which is why they're happier on a day-to-day basis. And if you ask me to choose between satisfaction and happiness, I would much rather be happy. Much rather be happy.
Do you know about Google's Project Alpha, that they did the management
No.
study? So there's this great study at Google. It's they used to promote managers based on technical proficiency.
Mm-hmm.
If you are
Which
a
is
really
a
great
huge
coder,
mistake.
yeah, so you get subject to the Peter Principle, which you all may know, which is you rise to your level of
Maximum incompetence.
incompetence. There we go. So you get promoted until you're incompetent and you don't get promoted anymore. So Google was finding that they had a lot of dissatisfaction among employees with their managers who were promoted for technical proficiency. They did a very long study looking at what made for a good manager, and number one was listening skills.
Relationships.
Peoplehood,
There
right.
you go.
And technical skills were important, but they're very far down the list. Just wanted to bring that up.
I talked to a Danish man called Lars Koland, who's the most famous Danish business leader, and world famous in Denmark. And I asked him, he's been involved in any number of successful companies. I asked him, what's your most important skill as a leader? And he says, I can understand the different needs of different people. Basically listening.
Right.
And by the way, I like Google's approach, which is the data-driven approach. Let's research this and find out what the science says, and I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely. Let's take one more question here in the back.
So my question really centers on, I would think the innovative edge of this research is really about change management at the top of leadership. So you mentioned Lars Koland of Oticon, right?
You know him.
Yes.
Perfect.
Well, I've read of him. I don't know him personally.
Right.
You know, or Patagonia, but these are all people who already are the way that they are, and then
Yes.
they found their companies. But really, it's about, you know, the companies exist, right? However they are, you know,
Yeah.
and they're not all a Patagonia, and leadership is taken over. So even if, you know, a Lars Koland founds a great company, what about the leader who takes it over?
Yes.
So I'm really curious, have you done research on change management, either actively yourself or looked into that? What can you actually do with the leaders that are in place? How do you promote change?
That's a fascinating question, and it goes back to the question Elizabeth mentioned that in our first contact, what makes us change? And different leaders come to this realization in different ways. Some of them just wake up one day and decide, oh my God, I want to run a happy business, and that's how they do. Some of them are born basically with that. That's how they come into business in the first place. Some of them come to that realization through massive crises. Do you guys know DaVita? American company, they do dialysis. They have several, many clinics around the US. And they were a terribly unhappy workplace. They were nearing bankruptcy, and they were under investigation by the SEC. They hit their low point, and from there they say, this is not sustainable. This needs to change, and that gave them the energy to change the company and make it a happy workplace.
So you talk a lot in terms of values and conviction, right? But I really wonder a strategy in the sense of abilities and skills, because I mean, Peter Koland wrote about the challenges of running Oticon, right?
Yeah.
It creates a lot of disorganization. Creating an open system,
Yes.
there's a very fine balance between an open system and a random system.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you actually convey those skills and abilities in leaders? Have you done that type of work?
No, honestly, I'm not sure there is a skill involved or a set of skills involved. Maybe it is more about a mindset and a willingness to put yourself out there in the name of happiness and say, you know what, more than anything else, I want to run a happy business. But I've never thought of that before. It's an interesting question. Is it a skill set or a mindset, or is it both? And it would be easier to say it's both. Who's the more likely to succeed? The leader with the mindset but not the skill set, or the leader with the skill set but not the mindset? I'm thinking the mindset probably drives this, and the skill set makes it work. But that's banal, right?
Just one.
Yes, hit me.
Just one really quick comment. So this reminds me of Douglas McGregor, right, and his whole
Yes.
theory X, theory Y around managers.
Yes.
The interesting thing, though, and he was very much value-driven. The interesting thing, when he tried to actually do real work and practice, he didn't succeed. So, just as a note to abilities and skill sets,
Yeah.
I wonder if values are enough.
I find that it is, but here's what we do, because there are managers who have not yet realized that happiness at work matters, okay? And we don't work with them. They don't come to us and hire us, okay? We get the other guys, we get the good guys, the
Right.
people who have realized that this is important, but are wondering, how can I do it? And we made this decision from the very start of the company, saying we will spend our energy helping those companies rather than convince the other companies to do this. And I've found that, certainly in my work, that if the mindset is there, the skills, they can pick up the skill set. If the skill set is there but not the mindset, it doesn't go anywhere. That's what I've seen in the small sample of clients that we work with, who are definitely not random in any way, shape, or form. Does that make sense?
A difference between kind of whole change management 8-step John Kotter style process to changing a company, as opposed to one of the things that works here is it doesn't have to be a company-wide initiative, right? You can start with different pieces of the culture. It can start individually, teams, management units, business units.
Yes.
So there are different approaches to doing it.
Yes.
I'm going to end with just one comment. There are some incredibly successful, very unhappy companies.
Oh, yeah.
There are a couple. Zynga comes to mind, they were the folks behind Farmville, which sucked up an inordinate amount of time in my household. Not me. But it was a software farm, essentially. It was a coding farm where it was all about results. It was pushing people to do as much as they possibly could. If you didn't succeed, you were fired. They churned through people as quickly as possible. Or Dish, which is one of the most successful companies in the US, at least in terms of revenue, also one of the most unhappy. I guess I would say that you could make those choices, and there are lots of people who do, but if you could be happy at work and be successful, why not do it? So.
And how much more successful could Zynga have been if their people had been happy at work?
So, Alex, thank you very much.
My pleasure.